that was where Oceanic Drive goes out to the beach now. It was just a plank road, wood here and wood here, and it was a bit wobbly.
Oh, I remember the plank road, yes. Yeah, to City Beach, yes. We loved it.
Everybody used to love it going across on that plank road.
People used to come out in cars. It was quite a thrill to drive up and down these things.
When we first went to Florida, yes, it was the plank road. And yes, the Switchback. I can remember going in we had a little Austin A40 and going up and down. A lot of fun.
On Plank Road, on the Switchback, used to go to City Beach. Used to ride out on planks, was all it was.
The road to City Beach, Oceanic Drive, stopped down at Perry Lakes, and it was just the plank road from there out.
Corner of Hornsey Road, there was only 2 planks out to the beach, up and down, you know. Switchback. We used to go out for runs to go up, you know. Everybody used to go there just to run up the Switchback.
The plank road in your area, it wasn't referred to as the plank road, it was referred to as the Switchback.
It was always called the Switchback.
Yeah. There wasn't any road formation, they just followed the sand hills, and it was called the Switchbacks. We used to call it the Switchbacks.
Of hills and valleys, one following the other, as the name suggests. It was like a switchback thing. It was about 4, I suppose.
Sweet, and it was up and down. It wasn't a straight road, and it was up and down, but it was. People just talked about it.
The only thing we had going for us in Western Australia was timber. The Darling Ranges were full of big trees, and surprisingly enough, they had steam sawmills around Perth from a very, very early date, and the whole of Perth, every bit of Perth, was made on wood blocks. There were no stone roads in Perth whatsoever. They were all wood blocks.
It was all sandy parts in the area on that offshot that also were plank roads. Beautiful jarrah, you can hard to imagine now, isn't it?
The road surface wasn't smooth, just the planks were laid down on top, and in the course of time they wriggled their way into the sand, but whether they were a bit bumpity-bump. And so generally there were 2 sleepers, a sand space in between, a couple more sleepers on the outside. See, they're only wagons and horses they are built for.
There's 3 planks on either side.
Mainly sleepers, just railway sleepers, probably 2 wide or 3 wide each. There was a bit in the middle with nothing, something like that, probably 3 and 3 I would think.
Plank road, but that was only the width of two wheels of a car. You had to be pretty good driving out there.
On your plank road, they had 3 planks, which were about 9 inches wide, I guess, and put them here, and then a gap in the middle, and another 3 over here. They left the middle out because all horse-drawn vehicles in the early days.
So at the top of the hill, if there's another car coming, you had to get to the one side and let the other one come through. And it was this plank road, and it was really used to sing songs because, I see the sea, you come up, and it was, it's a Switchback road.
The plank road was just a couple of planks and bitumen in between, and they'd had little areas off to the side here and there in case there was something coming the other way.
Yes, it was too, and they'd have to pull off in just a little patch over there when they saw another car coming.
One must have had to pull over, but that didn't happen very often because virtually as a one-way used to traffic going out to the beach, and then of course at the end of the day there'd be traffic coming home. But
there was another car coming and they saw it. They'd have the bus or whatever it was at the nearest sort of side runoff. They'd have to go and wait there.
You had faith that you didn't meet anyone coming the other way, but where you came over each hill, there was a little sideline. You could stop and move out and then come in again. It had been put there for horses and cars. Motor cars overlapped, and so in the early 1930s there were both horse and cars were dwindling away, but then when motor vehicles came, people became much more impatient. So you either pulled off or you didn't pull off, and you met in between and you had a fight with the guy coming the other way, and so someone had to back up.
See down the street if there was anything coming and you'd pull out and wait, or they'd pull out and wait. Well, imagine just a form on the back of a tray of a bus, and there's nothing to hang on to. They used to yell and squeal and laugh. They had lots of fun because the speed was not what it is now.
I used to drive a Chevrolet car for the city council. I can remember hitting 80 mile an hour on that thing.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
the Switchback was this plank road which came out virtually on Cambridge Street. And it was an up and down, but was only a one way. So.
And that was one way, of course. That was from east to west.
Especially Sunday, that was the treat to go down to City Beach. It brings back a lot of memories because we went on the Switchback road, and I can remember Dad putting the car into neutral, and we up and down we went right to the beach because you had no fear of traffic either side of you. It was one way and no intersections. And we came back through the boulevard, which was a new street. You couldn't come back being one way. You came back through the boulevard on which we lived.
So the planks were tied together with those big dog spikes, and they had bitumen over the top of the planks.
Plank Road, I used to City Beach with my cousin and her parents, and with the dogs that get tied up to the cars while we had a swim, and stopping at the Wembley pub for a beer and a lemonade on the way home.
Just behind us was this motorbike, and you come up over the hill, and just as you get to the top of the hill, the road, Bexhill Avenue, turned off to the left. So Dad had to brake to get around, and the motorbike was that close behind us. He was nearly going to bash into the back of us. He took off to the right, straight across the plank road, off into the bush, and we stopped, and Dad yelled out, "Oh, you okay?" The passenger was sitting on the pillion. He said, "Yeah, it's all right, mate. We're okay."
We're going down the road, and I could see Bot saying up. I said, "For God's sake, Russ, slow down because that place could almost stop to get round into Bexhill Avenue." "Oh, you'll be right. You'll be around." We come up over the hill, and there he was still on the road. So Russ says, "Hang on, we've got to go for the bush." And mostly sand there, thank God. And we ploughed through the bush until we hit a bit of a log about that big, and of course we went over, and I lobbed on my back, and I thought, gee, never got a scratch. Rusty never got a scratch, but wrecked his motorbike, and you could still wheel it, but stove all his footrest into his gearbox, and goodness knows what. Did a lot of damage. Anyway.
Did you break the beer?
Never broke a glass, would you believe? And I reckon I was throwing 20 foot through the air. If you were sober, I reckon it would have killed you. So, anyway, chaps were waiting at the surf club, and they could see the lights disappear. They knew what had happened, and they come running down there. They had a stretcher and everything to this, but we were right.
Where the old plank road headed off to City Beach was where all the loving was done in Perth. They all ended up in this area in tracks, and if they got caught, they got their name in the Mirror, which was a local paper.
Just wanderers or lovers sneaking off. You'd often be walking home of an evening, coming home from school, and you'd see two cars, and you'd say, "Oh, somebody's there."
There used to be a bus go out over the old plank road. It was called Parish Bus Service.
There used to be a bus run, the old federal bus used to run out to City Beach over the plank road. Of course, in those days, the road followed the contours of the hills. Now, of course, it's been flattened out a bit more.
Buses, but not. There was mainly their own transport and coming over the Switchback way.
It was the bus with seats longitudinally, along the length of the bus, and you entered the bus through a couple of steps at the rear, walked up these steps at the rear of the bus, open bus, quite open, and seats along the side. And this used to run a service to City Beach, I don't know how often.
We used to go to City Beach on the bus and go up and down the switchbacks to the beach. In those days, I suppose I was only 5, 6, 7, thereabouts. It was all pre-war.
Yeah, quite a lot of the bus went off. A bit of a dip in it.
Switchback, like.
Switchback.
Yeah.
So he would go over the humps and get you airborne. I've heard that.
Yes.
Even we were on the old federal school bus, and not school bus, the City Beach thing. We used to go over the Plank Road, you know, past Rayball.
Yeah.
We just go right down the back. You jump up when the old truck.
You get airborne, would you?
Yes, and so it was great, you know.
We used to get the bus, out the Plank Road there,
And
came back the boulevard.
Mm. Is that the bus route, was it?
Yeah, well, the Plank Road was one way.
Mm.
When they sold up and gave up, the government took over, but they wouldn't travel on the Plank Road. They came around through the boulevard.
Very few of us have a car. We if we wanted to go to the beach, we walked out there.
But we used to walk from West Leaderville on the Plank Road, but then we'd walk out to the beach. No one minded walking. It was the only way to go.
I used to walk from my parents' home in Wembley, in Barrett Street. I used to walk out to City Beach of a night and out along the old road, along the beach and back along the boulevard. And sometimes I wouldn't see more than one car.
Gosh.
That was in 1946.
There was a fair walk because they'd catch the bus to the end of the Reserve Street was the terminus, and it was a 2 or 3 mile walk out. If they were energetic, they'd go walk out, or they'd ride bikes, or there was a bus.
I used to ride my bike out then from Oxford Street, Leaderville, as a young teenager to go to the beach.
We used to ride our bikes out in the morning before work and for a swim at City Beach, and it was terrific to ride out over these, over the Switchback.
Out to the beach, we'd ride our bikes out to the beach. That was following the Oceanic Drive access.
Went down to the beach. Saturdays, we used to be able to ride our bikes down there, and of course, when we first started out, the old Plank Road was still in existence. Go out to the old Plank Road to City Beach.
We used to ride our bikes out to City Beach, and you had to be very careful with the wind, because the wind used to blow when directly from the west, would blow all the sand out from behind between the sleepers, and the sleepers were all crisscrossed like that, and the bike wheels would go down between the sleepers and jam and throw you over the handlebars.
I remember vividly once I went down to a friend of mine, her mother had a poultry farm. Anyway, when we were going, she said, you better take some eggs home to Mum because I know she can't buy any. And I had 3 dozen eggs, and she said, you better take a couple of dozen duck eggs. Mum used to do a lot of cooking. And all I had was shorts, underpants, and a shirt. And I tucked my singlet into the shirt, and I got these eggs there, 5 dozen eggs in there. So I'm going down the Plank Road on the switchbacks, and we hit one of these rocks, and it bounced me around a bit. The eggs come out of the bags. Of course, I took one hand, both hands with the handlebar and hold them like this, and I had back pedal brake. I'm trying to slow down because they're doing about 25 mile an hour. It was coming down the foot of a big hill. We used to get a thrill out of, coming down and slow up and down the left. Anyway, I hit one of these limestone spalls, and the bike went from under me, and I skidded along the ground, and bits of wood and some other thing and tar and in my backside. But I got up, and every one of those eggs running down with legs.
Like we used to ride out inside the City Beach and then come back home again. Yeah. And I remember getting up there, and of course they had freewheel bikes, and I had a fixed wheel, and the handbrake but it never worked anyway. And of course when I got down, I was getting up speed, mine was a little 20-inch thing, and I couldn't stop it, and they were in front of me, and so I took my foot pedal and put them onto the handlebars.
And there's the wheels are
the
wheels are turning themselves.
And then the chain came off.
Oh.
There was a big bong, and I was skidding then. And I was just staring down the hill until it stopped, but it wore right through to the tube, And then every time I was going boom, 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 boom. Every time the thing went round.
Walked and rode our bikes to school.
Along the Plank Road?
Along the old Plank Road, yes. Waited for the snakes to go across first before we'd carry on. Quite a few, yes, because it was all just bush in those days.
the lads used to take the handlebars out, put a bit of water pipe through, and they're big wide handlebars. And of course the thing was, you'd be on the plank road, they used to come up alongside on the other side and just get the handlebar and turn it and push them in the bush. But the girls, a lot of girls in the push bikes, so the boys used to double dink them, and I remember Glenn Trotter, a well-known name in this area. He was double dinking his girlfriend, Bub Sutherland, and it was funny as a play because she was sitting on the bar and she just dropped straight down.
But it was good in those days because all the boys used to ride to the beach. If the boys had a puncture or something like that, I was always the smallest, so I would have to be, they'd take the bike apart and everyone would carry a part over the Switchback road going the opposite way, and I'd get dinkied because I was the smallest. So and then they'd drop everyone and then I'd get my own bike back.
I went away to the war and I came back and it was gone. So it must have happened in probably 1943, 44, 45.
Until gradually the plank road went and became a thoroughfare, and
a unique road that should never have been taken away. It should have been here for posterity.